on the
Nice.
back end, but YouTube is being YouTube, so.
Nice,
Okay.
nice. The thing is, I didn't hear anything anymore because uh
Okay.
my earbuds
On
I
the
normally
back
use
end, but
are empty.
YouTube is being
Mm,
YouTube. So.
I had to impromptu change.
all right. Well, welcome to Keep It Simple, Senpai. We're
Yeah,
here to talk
there's nothing
about
like.
Frieren Beyond Journey's End today. I'm Lily, and the other two, could you give your names just in case we have any new people?
Uh, yeah, enter two credits.
Yeah, I'm Torstwolf, I guess.
No, this is sorry guys, but this is a little muckered up today. It's okay because it's not a
Yeah.
good stream and there's no scuff.
Yeah.
But but
Exactly, exactly.
we are
I'm
talking
already
free run.
taken,
We are talking free run.
already taken on.
Yep. We're good. I I'm getting over a cold, so my voice is just a bit rough. If I suddenly mute, it's because I'm coughing. I will try not to cough into the mic. But Freeman is an amazing show, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
I too am in the camp of free runs an amazing show. We did have one naysayer who said he couldn't watch it because it was popular. So we're very interested in hearing the naysayer's opinion of the show.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't watch popular stuff.
but you did this time because we told you to.
Hmm.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our general review. This will be mostly spoiler free, where we go over several categories and kind of give our general opinion on like the show as a whole and how good it is based on these different categories. So starting with the characters and the character development. Are the characters good? Are they relatable, interesting, or entertaining? Is there someone to root for or against? Do they develop? Do they change, grow, learn, improve, or worsen? Are the relationships also good? Do they feel natural, relatable? Do they develop? So, in my opinion, the characters in Frieren are some of the best. The character writing is very good. None of them, obviously, there is the hook of like, this is a fantasy show, and it's about the mage of a hero's party years later going back and retracing the steps of that journey and reflecting on her time with the hero and her friends in that group, and also developing new relationships with new heroes kind of as they travel around together. So Frieren is the main character. She's a mage and she's an elf. She's over 1,000 years old. So the 10 years she spent in the hero's party at the time felt a little bit like a blip in her life. But then years later, she realizes that those 10 years were some of the most important and precious in her life, and she comes to regret not taking more time to know the humans in her party, especially the hero Himmel, who passes on before she really has a chance to understand how important he was to her. And then the show is kind of about her examining that regret and thinking about her relations, and it's a very interesting kind of character study of someone who is essentially immortal and what kind of relationships and they can have with humans whose lives are less than a tenth of her life. So it's a great show. I love Frieren. She's obviously incredibly powerful, but she has some flaws. She has some quirks. She's not the best at, you know, being around people because she spends a lot of her life as a hermit. And only as the show really starts is she actually trying to get to know humans and understand their importance to her. And we learn a lot about the characters in the original Heroes Party, and they had their own flaws and weaknesses and strengths too. And then the new heroes that she is gathering around her as she travels, they all have different quirks and personalities and even side characters that you only meet for an episode or two. They're all very well drawn. They all feel like real people, and they all have their own relationships. and their own interesting things going on. And it's not just Frieren, we also see the relationship between her two main companions, Fern and Stark. They have their own difficulties and their own arcs, and it's just really good character writing, really good relationships. That it really is the strength of Frieren, I think, is the characters and their relationships.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I want to say that Western entertainment wishes they could even come close to building female characters as well built as Frieren is. She's not a Mary Sue in the typical fashion that we think of empowered, strong women. She has tons of flaws. She has a lot of confrontations, but it she makes up for those and she learns as she goes. And they even Fern kind of explains you're very dense. You don't understand how to read the room, and then Fern herself is also another strong female character that is still very uh, within a gender role of a female. Like none of these women overtake a masculine edge to them. They're still very effeminate, and it's very well done. Like the writer of this story has done great character work, and I think even maybe some slight flaws with inside the uh, plot maybe you can overlook with the absolute uh, great writing that is character work that's been done through this series. And I love these characters. Like, there's no character that I feel is ever typecast. There's no like standard trope for these characters. All these characters are fully developed. Even side characters who are being used as expedition dumps, they still have a character within them. So I think it's very well done. It reminds me a lot of Haiku, where the actual storyteller is using different people as a surrogate to relay information to either about the past or what's going on in the area. And it's not, it don't feel like it's just an expedition dump where it's very non, well, how do I want to say it? It's not in sync or it feels forced. It feels like a natural conversation that people are having where, they could talk about stuff that either happens in the past or that's happened currently. Like it's really well done as far as storytelling goes. I really enjoy this. And like I've as I said to many people, I would love to see a prequel to this series because I think there's a lot of fun and unique stuff with the past hero party that we don't get to see. I do enjoy what they did in the absolute like the absolute just crazy idea of the world's gone to peace now. What happens after that? And you're actually seeing how life moves on after a great adventure, and it's something that's I haven't really seen before, and it's really nice. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Wolf, go ahead.
Um, what this anime is in its core is actually anime about people. Um, it the main focus of it is just humans, their interactions uh, from the perspective of an elf, someone who lives way way longer, and how they interact with these humans. Uh, Not even a standard elf; it's more like an autistic elf, I would think. Um,
Yeah, she is autistic.
Hmm.
she's definitely. Uh, yeah, and that they of course focus on characters. All the characters are there with a reason, or not randomly, and not without their merit. They all have their place in the world, and I think They are mostly not really tropey as previously said by two grids.
Right. So yeah, I think we're all agreed the characters are good. All right. Moving on to the world building or setting. Is the world or setting a place you'd want to visit for a while in fiction? Is it or just the same old, same old? Are the new concepts introduced at a natural and interesting pace? Does it make sense enough for fiction again? Do the characters fit into the world? Do they change it, or at least do they have ambitions to try? So I really like the world building in Frieren. It obviously I love fantasy. I've always loved fantasy. It's always been my favorite genre. And Frieren does a really good job of taking something that feels familiar for sure, because it does have kind of the foundation of a basic fantasy world, like an RPG or a D&D, where you have a party of heroes who all have different roles. And it does stick pretty faithfully to those tropes. You have a wizard who can do powerful magic. You have priests who can do healing magic. You have warriors and frontliners. Um, and and then you have like just people in the world who are villagers who need to be protected, and there's nobles and all that stuff. It is on the at a first glance, it's a little bit tropey. But the way that everything is built out feels very realistic. Um, and very kind of like, yeah, if magic existed in a world, this is how it would work. If there were monsters in a world, like this is how they would fight and how they would, try to battle and things like that. If there were demons with these particular characteristics, this is how they would interact with humans. Like it feels so well drawn that even though it's not completely like brand new, it still works really, really well. It's definitely a place that you enjoy visiting as a story. Even a place I say that I would like to live in if it was a real place myself, which is not the case for every fictional setting that I'd like to see in fiction. But it's a really lovely world. I really like that it's not a deconstruction. I hate what deconstructions have become in modern media. It's an examination of heroism. Like these heroes do have flaws. We have the priest who's always drunk and hungover. We have the wizard who's just not good at talking to people. But then but they feel like heroes. They're still heroes. They do heroic things, and it's because they want to be heroes and not out of any kind of vainglory or like lust for gold or something like that. And so I really, really like the setting and the world building.
Yeah, and to build on that, yeah, this is a very hopeful story, and the world itself, definitely I would live here. The magical system is so well explained later on in this the season that there is fundamental understanding of the magical system in this world where it makes sense. It's very interesting, and I say this a lot when I start having conversations about the death of medieval fantasy in Western culture. We can't do medieval fantasy anymore. And even when we attempt to try to do medieval fantasy, we fail horribly. And it's interesting that to watch a Japanese take of European medieval fantasy and do it better than anybody's been able to do it since I don't I don't want
Lord
to
of the
say
Rings.
Tolkien. Yeah, I was going to say maybe Tolkien,
I mean,
but
there have been good medieval fantasy since Tolkien, but that is the Platonic ideal.
yeah, and this hits on a lot of those levels. Like, it's not about there's no nihilism. There's no like there's a easy, clear distinction between good and evil in this world, and everybody's trying to get by. You know, it is a little glorified because everybody seems for the most part as working together because you so far as of right now you don't see a lot of backstabby humans. You know, everybody's trying just to get along. But um, as far as just like a world in itself, this is easily a place I would go. I would hopefully be a mage because it seems like the magic system, like I said, is very well grounded in understanding and It's really good. Like I said, there's a lot of effort that's been put into this, and I really, really do enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. I would say this would be considered a Western in Japan, I guess. Um, because of course this is traditional Western fantasy. That's what they got here. There is most of these concepts are directly taken from what we already got here. Um, like out of our mythology and stuff like that. Um, like for example, evil demon or um, elves that live longer lives and are beautiful actually. Um, yeah, it does. Yeah, I think more or less puts the world building as a nice side thing. I think that's how it treats it. It the writer definitely wants to show a bit of what they have in the world, but that's not the main focus of it.
Agreed.
It's
Yeah.
the main focus are the characters and how they interact. And so I
Absolutely.
think the world is perfectly well established. I think, and perfectly well built for what they are doing. Um, I think it's a bit funny with these little spells that are locally created, do things that you would think that are developed everywhere else as well, but they are just locally there. um, but I think the author tried to make it more alive, more realistic. That all in all, the world is really natural, and the people are natural in it. It does not like they feel natural. It's not like they feel out of place or something like that. So it would be perfectly well made fictional universe, I guess.
Mhm. Yep, I agree. The world building is definitely secondary to the character, so it's fine that it's a little tropey. Like that's not the focus of the story. All right, moving on to plot and story. Is there something to grab your interest right away, and then does the show continue to hold that interest? Do the character decisions make sense based on the information they have? Does the logic of the world hold together? Is it well paced, or does the story drag? Is the ending satisfying if there is one? Is the story worth watching even if the ending doesn't work? So there is something to grab your interest right away because you start with seeing Frieren going on this hero's adventure with the original heroes party. And then after like 5 minutes, you get the celebration where like they've won, they've beat the Demon King. Now they're back in the first like capital city and they're having a celebration. So you know that they won. So, and then immediately, like, she's like, we'll come back in 50 years and we'll watch. I know a good place to watch this meteor shower that only comes around 50 years. So we'll meet again in 50 years. And to her, that's nothing. 50 years to Freeman is nothing. And the other's like, oh, yeah, sure. In 50 years, we'll meet again. And they do. And so then you see the humans much, much older. You see the dwarf also quite a bit older than he was 50 years ago, and Frieren is shocked, and that's where you get the. I think that's the real hook. And then when well, I mean, this is the first episode. So this is not a spoiler. Himmel the hero dies, and Frieren has kept a pretty cool, pretty aloof disposition throughout. And the first time we really see her crack is is at Himmel's funeral, basically, where she cries and she says, I wish I'd gotten to know you better. And that is the hook of the entire show. That's the premise of the entire thing. It's about this elf who's lived essentially an immortal life, regretting that she spent these 10 years with this human and he's gone now and she doesn't have a chance to spend any more time with him. And the whole rest of the show is based around her like trying to understand what those 10 years meant and what that person meant to her, and it's a really good hook. It works really well. I sorry, I need to cough.
Yeah, I would say just to add on that, like the actual
Ah,
art to me is different. It's timeless. It's something different than what's been going on. currently. And when this came out in, I think, 2023 or 2023, I think, or 24, this is very ambitious to do a 28 episode season. And just the art itself is kind of something different that you don't see every day. And to have a premise of what happens after you defeat the Demon King, to see how people live out their lives is very interesting. So, like, I was immediately hooked just because for me, visuals are very big. And watching the first episode and the way the characters are drawn and the way the world is created visually, it's very visually pleasing, and I enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me some of the animes I liked earlier when I first started watching them. It's not something super flashy. It's not overly done. It's very simple and clean imagery. And to me, that's what really hooked me is just because the art style is just a bit different, but yet uh, long scenes, just simple characters having conversations and building character development within the first episode was really, really done well. And that's why I enjoy it. Like, I could sit here and watch Frieren, and I all I want to do is keep watching the next episode because I do thoroughly like just not the just the art style, the way they present the story, and the way they do some nonverbal communication with the audience through storytelling, through scenes, and through music.
Yeah. Yeah, and just that was my next point was like talking about the pacing. It's definitely a much slower paced show than most like fantasy anime. Like when you think of fantasy anime, obviously right now you're mostly thinking about isekai, which tend to be very fast paced. They're about their wish fulfillment, their power fantasy. They're about some guy going who's had a rough life in the real world, usually going to a fantasy world where all of a sudden he has powers and like busting his way through the power system. So that's what we see a lot in fantasy right now. So Frieren was definitely a breath of fresh air in that it's not about power leveling at all. Like that's not like Frieren is already incredibly powerful. So the story is it's much slower pace. It's much more like a slice of life. It's a character study. It's a slow examination of like these past events and current events and watching the characters learn and grow. It's but the pat it also doesn't drag for me. I like this is the kind of show where it didn't have like the thing I love with some anime where like I finish an episode and I immediately want to watch the next one because I have to know what happens next. Frieren didn't have that factor for me, but definitely I was like, oh, this was so nice. You know, when it came out, you know, like yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this again next week. And I was as I was rewatching it for this discussion, you know, definitely it was very easy to keep watching. There was never a point where it was like, I'm tired of this. You know, there's always something to keep your interest. So the pacing works very well for what it's trying to do. And yeah, I have no issues with the pacing. We There isn't really an ending yet to the manga, and but the show does because of the slow pacing. The show can leave off where it does without any issues at all. It doesn't feel like you're being left on a cliffhanger or anything.
Mhm. Yeah. Love the story. Uh, it is pretty much as I have realized watching this, or like the first 14 episodes of the season. Um, I've realized this is pretty much the Violet Evergarden story, but put in a fantasy world and told from the elf's perspective. Violet Evergarden is one of my favorite anime, so I can definitely vibe with that. Um, and we get some fantasy action as well, so that's thing. Um, yeah, I think pretty much the most important stuff is already said. Uh, the characters are well integrated in the world. It does make sense what they do. I always like to have the thought experiments of how different things feel to different characters. I don't like certain conclusions some species have in such fantasy anime, but that is just me. Because as always in fantasy, the elf question always gets the elf question. The elf question always gets answered as, yeah, but they just die out. They never even think about maybe we should reproduce or something. No, they just live so long that nothing matters anymore. And yeah, it clearly is not like that, because there are things in her life that matter, like killing demons. Uh, but somehow these things that are actually important are not important for them, for elves, ever. That's why I pretty much subverted that with my elven empire and my universe. Because I don't accept that answer. It's very one dimension of thinking.
Yeah, I mean,
But besides that, these things, yeah.
yeah, she does. They do touch on that in the first season about reproducing and like how she um doesn't see many elves and why that is. Like, you know, uh, prop or breeding is not one of their biggest like importance in the world. Like, it takes something to move them to do that. So they do touch on it a little bit.
It is definitely not completely explicitly stated why it is. We do find out later in the season that there's essentially been a genocide of elves, like back with 1,000 years ago. Like a big focus of the Demon King's army was to kill all the elves. So it seems like there's just very few survivors, and maybe those who have left kind of accepted that their race is dying. But that's never explicitly stated. That's just kind of something I gleaned from what we do learn. But yeah, it is definitely. Freeman could go a lot deeper on like why the elves live essentially forever, why the dwarves are longer lived. Like most fantasy stories have some kind of mythology and about why these things are, and Freeman just kind of skips all that. It's like, yeah, you've seen this, you know elves live forever, you or for thousands of years, you know dwarves live for hundreds of years, you know that humans die at like 80 or 90. Like it just doesn't even bother with that depth of world building. So yeah, there's definitely questions in the Freeman universe that could be explored more fully that I have not seen explored yet. And maybe they are later in the story, I don't know.
The thing is, I'm actually quite fine with not having immediate answers to things, and as long as the inner world consistency of what is going on in the world is still there, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
it's
It's all
just like
consistent. Yeah.
it's just like every fantasy does that. Besides Tolkien, actually, that elves are somehow have no motivation for anything. At the same time, the most powerful they are, and yeah, just die out after a time. Like they don't care to keep themselves alive. What is that? It's as if they were not even part of nature in the first place. It's sometimes weird. I mean, in our world mythology, where did the elves go? I mean, we live in times where we don't really have elves. Well, elves in our world bred with humans and intermingle with them, and that's pretty much what where they are. They are just humans now at this point. They're like so diluted, the elf bloodlines, that they are humans.
Yep.
Beautiful humans, most certainly, but just humans that live pretty much in Sweden. And
Yeah.
yeah, the original elf, where we think they are from, is like I think a Swedish mythology point, and then from there it's just like yeah, uh,
Yep,
going
that makes
through the
perfect
points.
sense. Well, and in Tolkien's world, they all left because they got tired of the
Yes,
world. So yeah,
yeah,
there are
but
there are different answers, but yeah.
Yeah, but they left themselves. It's not like
Right.
the thing is they still reproduced.
Right. Right.
Because there are many reasons for why you can reproduce.
Yeah.
It-
Anyway, we could keep going on this, but let's move on to the next category.
yeah.
So yeah, art and animation. Credits talked about this a little bit, but is the art style interesting? Does it have some personality or uniqueness? Is the animation budget spent well? Are dramatic and important moments beautiful, exciting, or affecting? Are the characters well designed and appealing? Can you tell who they are without looking at their clothes? So I do really like the art style in Frieren. It's not anything incredibly flashy or stylistic like credits said, but it is lovely. And it feels pretty timeless. I don't think we're gonna look back in 20 years and say, oh, that obviously was made in 2024 or 2023. Like it's really nice. It's very smooth and but not too smooth to the point that it feels unnatural. And yeah, it's a great art style, and there is good budget spending on like those battle scenes that we do get, or on very emotional scenes like where Frieren is crying and we see her have this emotional breakdown for the first time. Like there is good time spent where it should be spent, on detailed and beautiful animation to really express the story in the way it needs to be told. So, and the characters are well designed. We do have a little bit of the anime color coding because we have a girl with purple hair and a boy with red hair, and we have a white-haired girl, but like it's fine. I have no problem with that. They all have great costuming that like it fits into the world, but it's also unique to their characters. They have great accessories. I love Freeren's staff and Fern's staff, and they're yeah, it's I really like the art and animation.
Yeah, the art and animation once again is uniquely different, but like I said, even what I like too is like then you'll when they want to do their comedy beats, you'll have that sudden change to that quirky little uh traditional Japanese like anime. It's super cute and it's wholesome and like start crying and then you'll see like a bigger rounder face and they do have an anime style. Then when they're doing their little jokes or their little gags, they'll change it. Um, Once again, I'm sure Wolf's going to talk about this is the way they use music to set up emotional beats. So once again, the art and the art style flows perfectly with everything they're building towards. Everything with Freerun is building steps. Just like if you watch Game of Thrones, like there's obviously when people are sitting there talking and having conversations, you know, you can ease up on the art style and you can ease up on the animations, but it's always building towards something. So nothing goes to waste here. I think it feels very much like haiku as far as when it goes they know when to splurge and when they know they need to save money because even in like far off shots you'll see little round peach faces and you know that it's the characters because they're color coded correctly, and you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of far away, so I'm not going to see details. Like they know how to um, use the cinematography of the animations and in the scenes to be able to save money where they can, because when they do action, and it's over the top and it's great.
Art and animation. I think we have reached a point in animation and art where we cannot really get much higher in the quality. As already in 2015 with Fate Stay Night and Blade Works, we had like a perfectly fine anime that you could drop today and would still look great. And that's pretty much the same here. It's an anime that you could probably drop in 20 years. It still would be great animation and art style wise, because there is, I don't think, uh, much we can go higher, at least not in the drawing space. Yeah, music mentioned, the OST was made by Evan Call, and as I've said before, the story of this is pretty much an extended and fantasy version of a Evergun story, where a character learns their feelings, learns to get to know their feelings through other characters and through their own experiences. And guess what? I knew it, of course, beforehand. MCall also made the music for Frieren, and for Evergarden. He is a master for like music that encapsulates feelings or is like supposed to give a certain feeling about something. He's a master in that, and that's a perfectly well picked composer, I guess, for this. For the OST Frieren and what Frieren's try to do.
Yeah,
Yep.
so um yeah. I I guess I think I'll give my rating first and I this free
We've
one
got
to
one
me.
more.
Oh,
We got one
Go for
more
theme.
oh, you got one more? Okay,
categories.
my bad.
Yeah, theme and messaging. So, what kinds of themes are being communicated through the story? Is there a point or message that goes beyond the plot and the characters? Is it a theme or message worth sharing and thinking on? So, we've already kind of talked about how this is a character study. It's a examination of heroism and the ways that people affect each other and how relationships grow and change and how you can look back on something from the future and see how important it was. Maybe you didn't realize at the time, but then later you can really understand that, oh, that person had a huge impact on me. Um, and yeah, those are all important themes. There is the theme of someone who's been around for a very, very long time, choosing to like make a difference in the world. That Frieren, like I said, she lived as a hermit for hundreds of years, and then Himmel came along and said, "Hey, come and help me defeat the Demon King," and he said the right words to push her out of her comfort zone, and she decided to go with him, and they ended up winning. So yeah, there is this incredibly powerful person, Frieren, instead of like hiding away, choosing to make a difference. And so there's the examination of heroism there. There's the examination of Stark and his what they some call cowardice and some call bravery, where he's afraid but he chooses to stand and fight anyway. There's it touches a little bit on men and women with Fern and Stark and how their different communication styles can cause misunderstandings, and how there is an ongoing message throughout the show about how people don't understand how you feel unless you say it out loud, which is a good thing that a lot of people need to hear. So, yeah, there's a lot of themes and a lot of messages in this show that I think are really beautiful and really useful, and a lot of people could benefit from watching the show and thinking about what it's trying to say.
Yeah. I think the story it's almost like at some point like traditional television, like especially in the 80s and 90s, you'd have Monster of the Week, and it feels like free runs is almost like a theme of the week. Like there will be like some kind of inner conflict inside the party, and they work towards it instead of working towards a grander goal. Unless we're in an arc to work towards a grander goal, and there's all the themes are very interpersonal and how to communicate, and not only communications, but it's like how do you continue on with no grand like plan, like it's the people that you meet and how you interact with people, um the small things that you do could have the biggest impact on somebody. And it's I mean, there's so much that I mean, we could sit here and just talk about themes and messaging throughout. There's plenty of videos on YouTube just talking about, you know, the messaging for this arc or the messaging in this episode and what it's trying to convey to people. Freerun doesn't kind of shy away from anything, and once again, it's not deconstruction or nihilism. It's like almost like how people have a conflict and how we can resolve that, going into an overarching arc of where they're trying to get to. So it's I'm like I said, it's like the best action slice of life anime that you can watch. It has so much depth in some areas, and it always ties up loose ends. And the way people interact with each other in the world makes sense because they explain why that interaction or why the end of the interaction ended up that way. And you see it through the perspective of not only the elf, but like there's like Stark. Stark is just a good person. Well, why is he such a good person? And then they show why he's this way. Or and then you get to like Hummel and the flashbacks of Hummel and why Hummel decided to do what he did. There's always like a follow through of an action sets something on a course and it ties it together. That's what I think. If you watch very closely, you can understand how the story writer is tying everything together, and it's done very well. Very, very smart, I think.
Yeah. The overarching themes, of course, about the interpersonal lives, how people affect each other, and will be seen in the future, or how stories evolve around yourself once you do something great, or you got eyes on yourself. Um, I mean, many of these things are just like will be just the same for idols and stuff, for people that are just famous. Um, but there are, of course, a lot of smaller messages and themes. A lot of character themes are already in the names of the characters. I once knew a guy that always had to love his ass off because because the thing is, you get to know a person in this anime, and if you're German, you get the name, and the name means something. And most of the time, the meaning of the name is already describing the character to some extent. So you will not be really surprised by anything that they do. For example, there's a demon called Lügner. Lügner means liar, literally. That's all it means.
That's
And
great. That's great.
and what does the demon do? He lies. Oh, he's just caught after lying. Okay,
That's
yeah,
that's very
and that's
common in yeah, that's very common in Japanese fiction, especially when they're doing a Western. They'll just like translate a Japanese word to whatever that language is, and they'll call them that name.
that's all throughout Frieren. Of course, there are names that are more cryptic in the sense. Like Eisen is just iron. What you will take of that name is something for everyone, I guess, to figure out. Um, but yeah, I think it's pretty much all about the message themes. I have to say, as of now, in the spoiler-free section.
Cool. All right, yeah, credits you wanted to go ahead and give your rating.
Yeah, because I think we should leave Wolf till the end because that's the most interesting rating. But this one, Frieren, I think edges out Haiku, um, just a little bit, just because why I love Haiku and Haiku resonates with my soul. I think Frieren's just a little bit smarter when it comes to character and storytelling and the way it ties things up. So to me, this would be probably my highest rated anime, and I would probably give it a 9.7.
Okay. For me, yeah, it's definitely a 9 out of 10. I'm not gonna put a point something on it. It's a very, very good show. Um, as as good as a show can be, really, without being, to the point where I would say everyone should watch it. Like 10 for me is I would tell anyone to watch this, whether they like anime or not. 9 is I would tell anyone who likes fantasy to watch it. I would tell anyone who likes anime to watch it. I would tell anyone who likes character studies to watch it. So it's yeah, 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I think this one is a solid 8 or 9 for me. Um,
Wow, that's great.
That's fair. I mean, you did because what was Fate for you? Fate was a 9, right?
yeah, but Fate has a lot that's going around it.
Yeah,
No,
A
there's a
lot
lot
yeah.
more
in
I
going
was,
depth
into
world
Fate.
building.
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just was seeing where that was close to
No,
it
I'm
because
happy to hear. I'm happy to hear an 8 from Wolf. That's great.
yep,
That's a high rating.
it
So,
is.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I like stories between characters because I personally good at writing them,
Mhm.
and I like general Western fantasy. And this is more or less like as far as we watch currently. It is, or as I watch. So, this is pretty much just Western fantasy. There is nothing Eastern there or something else. Just Western fantasy.
Mhm.
And I am currently a bit Eastern fantasy fatigued, so that's a positive for me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Didn't have to live through my quintillionth time of seeing the same
The
two
JRPG.
things or three
Yeah.
things of yeah of Asian culture entry. This
I mean, they do have Hamburg steaks, but that's fine.
Yeah, they do that. The Warriors birthday.
But no
birth-
one's eating Japanese curry in Germany, so that's a plus.
yeah, well, yeah,
like I said, I was just interested in to see what Wolf rated this because he was very because before we started this podcast, it was something I was interested in because he said he's never watched it because it was popular. And I'm like, well, let's see. So this whole podcast was just a scam to get Wolf to watch Frieren, and after now that I've
yeah.
done this, we might as well just end it because I don't know what I'm going to do after
The last episode will be Frieren season 2 or
Well,
something of this podcast.
yeah,
there's a
but
reason Frieren is so popular. It maybe is a little tiny bit overhyped in certain circles, but I understand why. It's a very good show, and sometimes it feels like it's so hard to find a good show like this that when you do find one, you just like dig your claws in and you're telling everybody, this is so good, you should watch it. So, yeah.
yeah, it's like finding water in the desert, right? Because Western media is not anything to hype yourself up for. And then when you see something that's very character driven, yeah, I think it's very maybe overhyped, but at the same time, it is probably maybe the best interpretation of Western fantasy that I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, and
Actually, I
yeah,
think,
that's sorry, go ahead.
yeah, okay. I'm gonna drop a hot take right here. I
Okay.
think the only really serious tries to make Western fantasy out of the West that you can read and they are enjoyable are probably male romance books. Like we all know the Milking Farms, right? There is a male version of this, and not in the sense that there it is just like one male. No, the male romantasy, I guess,
Oh,
um, is actually just nerds being nerds, writing out a complete world and stuff, and having like the romance on the side, and it makes sense. There are way less sex scenes in it,
yeah.
and
Okay.
The male romance in books is way less sexualized than the female ones.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
just gotta
And
check my.
they give you a good fantasy, a Western fantasy world, because they actually care. These are like guys writing about their what they like to see, I guess, in the sense of they build actual worlds with fruits and stuff. That's probably the only source I can think of where you can get good Western fantasy stories from at this.
Interesting.
I'm going to check my bingo card right now. I didn't see Milking Farm being dropped on an anime podcast, so.
It's, stop. Anyway,
Look at that.
let's move on.
Especially in a Frieren episode,
Yeah,
mind
in a
you.
Frieren episode. Yeah, exactly. Leave it to the German to be bringing up crazy stuff.
Whatever.
But so this was a nice 50-minute pre-ramble. Of getting
Now we get into the spoiler part.
So we are going to make this episode a little bit shorter than what we usually do. So we might go with the hyper quick synopsis of the episodes, and we'll try to get up to episode 14 before Lily has to take off. So I think we should just kind of jump into it.
Yep, I gotta go about 5 for my niece's birthday party. So
Okay. Well, and we did talk about it briefly. Episode 1, The Journey's End. And that's after defeating the Demon Lord, Himmel, the priest, Heather? Heather.
Haito.
Heiter. Yeah. And Ison and Frieren all return to the capital after the the party and the festivities. There's the meteor shower, and then they sit around and they kind of discuss what they were going to do next. The men all decided that they're going to retire because 10 years was quite a long time. Where Frieren said, well, 10 years is just like 100th of my life. I'll probably hang out in the area and look for more tomes and magic spells. And we'll put a pin in that because we'll come back to that later because it does get explained why she goes around and looks for magical spells. But they do the looking at the meteor showers, and Frieren does mention that it's kind of you can't see the meteor show very well, and that in 50 years when the next one comes, she'll take everybody to a place where they can see it better. And as Hemel laughs and goes, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. 50 years, I'll make sure I'll make it." Um, they can get back together and see the meteor shower. Then that's when we start having the time skip. So you see, um, basically, scenery going by real fast, and then it shows Frieren having an adventure by herself. Then she's trying to find a dark dragon horn for a summoning spell. What is she summoning? We don't know. Why does she need it? Because she's trying to summon something. And then she remembers that Frieren gave Himmel a dark dragon horn that they slew in the Demon King's castle. And so she figured she was close enough to the time of the meteor shower that she would go revisit Himmel. And as she walks through the city, she notices that the city has changed a little bit and it's grown a little bit. And as she's looking for Himmel's house, a elderly old man creeps up behind her and speaks to her. And she instantly notices it's Himmel's voice, which is interesting because even though it sounds the same, it definitely is not the same voice that you hear when you see flashbacks of Himmel. And after that, she retrieves asks him about the dark dragon horn, and he says, "Yes, of course I have it. It's right here in my bedroom next to my bed where I sleep at night for the last 50 years." And she's like, "Well, why didn't you keep this in a shed or anything?" And he says something very kind of interesting and wholesome. And he goes, "This is a treasured gift that was given to me by my friend. So I wanted to hold on to it, and make sure it's in good condition for when you came back when you needed it." And then obviously she gets a horn, and she summons a magical bird, some kind of bird, to send the horn off to wherever. It's never explained. And then we cut to Himmel or Frieren outside waiting for Himmel to get ready to go on a journey to go to the place to watch the meteor shower. And as they're getting ready to set off, she says, "Yeah, it's only a week walk." And mind you, Himmel's on a cane. The Heather is obviously older
Yeah.
too, and the dwarf is older, so they're on a week walk. They don't run a
Yeah, she
ta-
looks like a 20-year-old out walking with a bunch of 70-year-olds.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah.
And then of course Himmel is you know, you see a lot of Himmel talking to himself, saying how much he feels like he's back into their 10-year adventure, and how it reminds him of looking on new places, and little comedy beats of them hiding in the bushes, and um, Eisen jumps out and smacks a demon wolf on the head, and then Freerun finishes him off, and it's very comical. But even in that scene, you see the whole party step out in front of the beast when Freerun's going to finish it off. So it shows how tight they were as a group, because no one's ever left behind. Even Hemo, who's elderly, is still out to make sure that free runs is protected. It's very wholesome to watch. Anyways, they get to the what is it? It's like a valley with a lake in the middle of it, and they're sitting on the downward slope, and they watch the meteor shower. And Hemmel remarks that he's glad he made it to this time, because this was incredibly enjoyable. It reminds him of all his great and memories that he had over the 10-year adventure with the heroes party. And then Himmel passes, and that's the next scene. Then at the funeral, a bunch of people in the crowd starts making remarks that Freeren's not showing any emotion to the death of the greatest hero in the land, and they start tossing stuff, and it's very you feel bad for Freewen, because she don't know how to she's very emotionless at this, and she don't understand why people's getting upset with her. Then finally, we move out to the gravesite, and as they are putting Hemmel to rest, Freewen absolutely breaks down and starts crying, because she says that she didn't get to understand or know Himmel at all, and that was her mistake, and she finally realizes that she made a mistake. She had all this time, and she never got to understand her friends that she was with for 10 years. And then after that, 20 years, we do another jump skip. 20 years later, she finds a small girl into the forest, and she's visiting the priest again, because the priest she was I think she's actually said she was coming to pray at his grave, or to see his grave, and he was still alive. And she gets lost in the forest, and she meets a very small fern, and Fern asks her what she's doing, and she's like, trying to find a corrupt priest, and she leads him to the house And that's when an interesting conversation gets had between Frieren and the priest, and he asks her to take Fern on as an apprentice. And Frieren, obviously, she objects to it and says, she would just get into my way. And then he's like, okay, well, come downstairs with me. And he hands her a tome, and he says, this tome, I can't read it. And could you decipher it for me? And she's like, okay, but why? And he's like, well, it's said to give you immortality or to resurrect the dead, and that he's at the age where now he has death anxiety and he's scared of dying. And Freerun says, okay, I'll do that for you. It should take only 5 or 6 years for me to do it. And the priest goes, well, that's fine. Is there any way in your free time you could teach uh, Fern how to be a mage? And that is pretty much the first episode.
Yeah, a very short episode. It
And
was really filled with a lot of stuff.
it was
Happened.
20, it's a 26 minutes episode, but it's packed with a lot of information.
Yeah.
Yep, I think it's a very good first episode. It tells you everything you need to know to understand Frieren and what she's been through and why she's going on this new journey now. And it gives you a glimpse into all of these characters that were important to her. And then it sets up the next episode because she's actually falling through, she wanted to learn to know her human friends better. And so, Hyder says, you can, to honor me, you should bring a drink and pour it on my grave. So that's literally what she did, is she bought a drink to go pour on his grave. And then she gets to his house and he's still alive. And he has this girl that he adopted because she was a war orphan. And she's like, and that's like the start of her new journey. So it's a good first episode.
I do
Yeah.
enjoy the emotional beats, and you kind of feel like Freeren's pain, that you kind of know that she's made a mistake. And to put a pin in that, because we'll get back to that later as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want, we'll move to episode 2. If you didn't have to be magic, it didn't have to be magic. Um, Frieren spends the next 4 years tutoring Friend while translating the ancient book on immortality. Um, and suddenly the priest collapses and can no longer walk. Frieren decline or uh, Frieren goes out to get Fern and tells her that she needs to take care of Heather, because he collapsed and she declined to see him immediately, as she is still training to become a proper mage, because that's her promise that she made to him, that she would become a proper mage. And as she continues to train, um, before he ends up passing, um, they actually show the backstory of how Fern was about ready to commit suicide when he finds her. And they show him sitting on a rock, of course, with a bottle of booze. And he talks about, um, you know, I have an old friend passed a long time ago, and he would want me to help you because that's what Himmel would do. And um, I have precious memories of Himmel, and I'm sure you have precious memories of your family as well. And for you to throw your life away seems to be meaningless, and I can't let you do that. And that shows you how Fern ended up coming to the priest and living with the priest. And Frieren finally ends up finishing the translation of the book and tells him that, there's no magical spell to extend his life, or there's nothing to resurrect the dead. And at the same time, you do glimpse to see Fern actually. They don't show it directly, but they do show her summoning the magical spell to destroy the rock across the ravine um, before he passes. And he either asks Frieren to take Fern away before he passes to go on a journey because she's already experiences more loss, or she's already experienced loss. She don't need to lose another parent or a father figure in her life, and she she agrees to do so. So she joins Frieren on her travels to continue to learn. They continue to use uh, magic to complete mundane tasks for townspeople. Typically, as they're traveling, Frieren asks for documents about magic. I think one town they do pumpkin picking, and she receives a scroll to warm cups of tea. Um, then they come across Florist, and she wants them to clean a statue of Himmel. And Frieren decides that she would do it. And after the task was done, Frieren decides that it would look good with some flowers in the field around the statue. And Fern reminds Frieren that she can summon that magic. And she goes, no, if only the blue moon weed would be suitable for this, and she's never seen it. And then we have a small arc of Frieren and Fern trying to spend 6 months looking for blue moon weed, the flower. And as the 6 month search keeps on going, Fern is very starting to get frustrated with Frieren how she's so committed to this task, and she don't think that this task will ever end until she actually finds the flower, which Fern thinks is gone extinct in the area, and she don't understand why she's so dedicated to find this, and that she would spend years trying to figure it out. And I think is that where it? No, does it? Okay, yeah. So basically, then the florist ends up giving Fern a bag of seeds that are close to the blue moon weed, but isn't the same. And the florist says, maybe you need to tell Fern how you feel. And then they go out into the forest, and she finds Frieren, and they have a conversation. You don't hear the words, you just hear the music playing in the background as they talk, so you don't get to hear that conversation. But then eventually, what ends up happening is it does cut in with words, and you hear Frieren say, or Fern say that she's kind of ready to move on, and that's when the squirrel ends up taking one of the seeds, and that's when Frieren gets the idea to track the squirrels back to their nest, and they come across a large watchtower that's been abandoned, and then one blue petal falls to the ground, and then lo and behold, Frieren flies up to the top of the tower and finds a small field of blue moon weed flowers, and then they go back to the statue. She conjures the um, field of flowers that is the blue moon weed flower. And the reason why she did that is because Himmel mentioned that he wanted to take Frieren to see the flowers that grew in his home city, and that happened to be them, and that's why she used it around the statue. And that concludes the episode.
Yep, it's a very good episode to establish Fern. Um, we see her backstory and why she's choosing this life of a mage. And we get some interesting little world building tidbits, like Frieren saying that she doesn't want to take an apprentice because they end up dying. So we can see from that 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 was her experience in the past, as she saw a lot of people die. But Fern is determined. Um, she really wants to pursue this path of magic, and it turns out that Frieren is quite a good teacher. And like we were mentioning in the chat, Penny mentioned that it's interesting that someone so old as Frieren could be tricked by Heiter, and I think she kind of knew that the Grimoire didn't have what he was saying exactly, but she chose to stay because he asked. Also, she loves obscure old magic, so she wanted to decipher that tome anyway, so she might as well do it while hanging out with her old friend in his last few years. And she got to know Fern, got to appreciate her, and so when the time came for her to go, not only did she have a relationship with Fern, but Fern was also strong enough that Freeman could believe that she wasn't going to die. So that was important for their relationship. And then we get the first side quest where they find the statue of Himmel and they clean it up, and then they find the flower that's important to Frieren to put around his grave. And later we find out that that flower spell was Frieren's master's favorite spell. Her name was Flamma. She was the first human mage. She founded human magic back 1,000 years ago. An incredibly important figure in Frieren's life. And this was Flamma's favorite spell, who her parents taught to her. So this is Frieren kind of passing down this spell that's special to her. She doesn't explain this to Fern. Like I said, a continuing message in the show is that you have to say what you're feeling or people won't understand. But we do see, and yeah, and she wanted to use that flower in particular because Himmel had said he wanted her to see it. So yeah, some of these things don't come clear until later, but this episode does show how deeply Frieren cares about her friends, even though she's not great at showing it. Well,
Right.
much better with actions than words.
Right, and it also shows like some of the magic system as well, because Freerun couldn't originally put it up even after seeing a picture of the flower in the book. Like she actually had to physically touch the flower in order to conjure that flower in her magic spell.
Yeah. This episode shows a few things. She cares about her friends. She might even care more about some than she herself realizes. Um, or has words for the feeling. That's what I meant with the Violet Evergarden story. A character has to learn their emotions and the words for the emotions and what they mean um, as they go on a journey and meet different people and recontextualize things from the past um, with new gained knowledge and new gained vision you have, new gained perspective. And also we get to see Frieren's complete disregard for time
Yes, yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
the way she does not really honor other people's time because she spends like 6 months of that for that search of that one flower, while this is half a year for a human. So half a year is quite a bit much of a time for spending for searching for something.
Yep, it's definitely setting up the dynamic we see much more clearly later, where Fern is gets pretty impatient with Freeren's lackadaisical attitude toward how long things might take. And later Fern is much more willing to speak up about that and push Freeren to not quote unquote waste so much time, which it is a waste from a human perspective because that's so much longer for Fern than it is for Freeman. But like it is yeah, we definitely see 6 months to Freeman is nothing. It's a long time to Fern, and Fern is pretty exasperated by the time they finish.
Yeah, that is a common theme in this series. The way Frieren looks at time
Yeah.
because of her age.
Yep. And the other thing too is it shows that there's conflict, right? It's not like I hate you conflict. It's just when you're living so close with somebody, like you're eventually going to have excuse me, you're going to have some conflicts that need to be resolved. And then, you know, Fern goes and has a conversation with the florist. The florist says, "Well, here's an idea. Why don't you talk to her about it?" And then, it's slowly resolved. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, I think about the topic of time. I will get this out fast. Time actually flows on your perspective, depending on how much you do. And I actually think that it is kind of weird that Frieren, who spent like probably hundreds of years just sitting in front of books, which will be seen as your brain as doing nothing much if she reads all the time and studies or meditates. When you do mundane like tasks that you do every day, just like uh, your daily routine, I guess. Mundane is what I was looking for. That your brain will forget all the mundane tasks, all the mundane stuff. So actually, more or less, she would have already forgotten like the hundreds, or if not 200 or 300 or 400 years of doing nothing but studying and building her, meditating and stuff like that. While the time she spends with Fern actually must feel way longer than the one she is studying, just because of that factor of how we perceive time.
yeah,
But
I can see that. Because your brain doesn't shut itself off, right? You're constantly having to use it and interact
yeah,
with people. So, yeah.
yeah. The thing is, if you look back, why your childhood felt so much longer every day is because you did way more stuff every day. There was less mundane and more
You're
new.
also you're also learning a lot.
Yeah,
Something I learned during COVID is that it felt like time slowed to a crawl for a while because there was so much happening, and you were constantly reading news articles trying to figure out what was going on. So like the first month of COVID just felt like forever, right? I think to a lot of people, because it was this brand new experience that we were all having as the world, of like being shut in our houses and working at home. For many of us, like my company sent me home to work with a computer and monitors and stuff, and like so time slowed to a crawl because there was so much new things happening, and it was so traumatic and scary. So yeah, time slows down when there's a lot going on, when you're learning a lot. And
yeah,
and that can happen at any time. You can change your perception of time by choosing to learn something. If you find that the days are slipping by, it's because you've fallen into a rut and a routine, and you're just doing the same thing every day. Like you go to work, you come home and watch TV, you don't do anything, you eat the same foods. You can and those days will just slip. They'll just slip like a stream going by. But if you choose to learn a new hobby, or if you start like going to the gym and trying to figure out how to lift weights, which is one thing I did when I felt like my life was going too quickly. It's like going for a walk every day, slowing down, smelling the outside air, looking for birds. Like you can change your own perception of time by choosing to do something new and choosing to change your routine. So we have some control over that as well.
yeah. So much so for freelance perspective of time.
Yeah, moving on.
All right. So, The Land Where Souls Rest, episode 4. In exchange for cleaning a beach, Freerun receives a grimoire written by the famous Flame.
Wait a
Even.
sec.
What?
We were at
Did I
episode
skip?
2. We should be at episode 3. Yeah,
Oh,
killing
okay.
magic. We need to meet the man, the myth, the legend, the demon.
Oh yeah,
that
I
Killing magic.
created
skipped. Yeah,
Stolztra.
I skipped. Apologies. Episode 3, Killing Magic. Frieren notices Fern acting suspiciously and follows her to several unusual and dangerous shops. So basically, Fern thinks Frieren's going to go and spend money frivolously on old bones or books that they don't need. Frieren admits that, excuse me, Frieren admits that she's desperate, or despite her efforts, she has learned almost nothing about Fern and was trying to think of a gift for Fern's birthday. Fern is happy knowing that Frieren was at least trying to learn about her. Frieren decides to visit places she visited with Himmel and the Heroes Party. The first place is a village where Frieren sealed away uh, Quail, the demon of
Qual.
corruption. What's that?
Qual, I think. Was it?
Yeah. Um,
Well, yeah.
well, the seal will be breaking soon.
Just
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Wolf if qual means corruption in German.
No. Qual is more or less like as a kind of pain.
Interesting.
Like a torturous pain. Like if you end someone slowly and painfully, you put them to trial.
The seal Freerun expects or inspects the statuesque of the monster, and she notices that the seal is going to break soon, and that she must finally vanquish uh, Quail. She is surprised to learn that Hemel checked the seal several years, or checked the seal every year until he died, and he was always confident that Freerun would come back before the seal broke. Frieren reveals that Quell invented the killing spell Zoltrak. Yeah,
Just a fantasy Zolltrag.
Zoltrak. That bypass all barriers and armors to strike the body directly. And I believe it said it killed 40% of warriors and up to 70% of mages. I think those were the numbers that Frieren spotted off. Um,
From the region,
yep,
the trial where he comes from.
yep. Which was a powerful spell at their time, but um, you know, uh, oh, which was so
Yeah.
powerful at the time, she managed to seal rather than destroy him. As the demons unsealed, but Frieren reveals that it's been 80 years that he's been asleep, and humans managed to not only learn his magic but reverse engineer his spell, allowing them to develop a new defense spell to block it. Unable to harm them, Quirrell easily dies when Frieren uses her own magic spell on him, or his own spell on him, which he does not know how to block. Which I don't know if that's true because he did summon the one shard of the defense magic because he claims that it must. He thought he could overpower him through his mana pool. Um, anyways, Frieren realizes the village elder is a boy that flipped her skirt 80 years ago, and reminding her fondly of Himmel. Frieren also points out that Himmel must have he also points out that Himmel must have deep trust in Frieren to be certain. Oh no, Fern also points out that Himmel must have had deep trust in Frieren to be so certain that she would return to the village and vanquish the demon. Um, yeah, this has a small little training arc as well, where Frieren and Fern was out in the forest, and she was engaging in training to make sure that Fern understood how to use the defensive magic because of the upcoming thing that she had to do.
So again, big theme of this thing in total is the passage of time. And since humans don't have much time, they use all the time they have
Hmm.
to be really effective. So they made it possible to integrate Soltrak, which was a completely new attack 80 years ago, into the normal magic world. As Fern pointed out, that once Qual used Soltrak, that this is just a normal attack spell. Even and we learn in later on this is even less powerful version of the attack spell that they use, which all happened in just 80 years.
Yeah, it's pretty fun how Paul, breaks his seal and he's like, "How long's it been?" And Frieren says 80 years, and he goes, "Oh, not long at all." Like to a demon, also the time is passes differently.
Yeah.
But then
Yep.
it's so fun when Frieren explains to him that, like, yeah, in the last 80 years, humans completely reverse engineered your spell. They figured it out. They figured out defenses. Magic armor has gotten better. And she sounds kind of smug, at least in the dub. It's like she's proud of how humans have managed to defeat him in what to her and to him seems like such a short amount of time. And she's like, yeah, humans have totally got your number now. Like it's pretty cool. And it is very neat. Like it's a short battle scene, but it's really cool the strategy that you see that Fern and Frieren are developing cuz Frieren asks Fern to run defense essentially while she prepares a big strike against Qual to take him down, and like it works so perfectly. It's over in like a minute. Like you see Soltrox striking out from Qual to hit Fern, and she's flashing up her little defensive spells at the exact pinpoint barriers to protect herself, just the way Frieren taught her. And then the camera pans up, and there's Frieren floating over the battlefield with this giant rune circle that she's created in the air, and she shoots, and he's gone. It's so quick, and it's such a just a neat both the teamwork between Fern and Frieren, and also just how you can tell that Frieren has spent the last 80 years figuring this out. And later we learned that she herself modified the Zoltrox spell to be used specifically against demons, and then she taught Fern that version of the spell herself. So like she spent, she wasn't doing nothing during those 80 years. She was following her hobby. She was picking up obscure little spells from villages and people because that's what she likes to do. But she was also spending that time so when the seal broke, she'd be able to take him down, and her plan worked perfectly. It's very satisfying.
Yeah, it also shows like progression in a sense. Then back then was like this big threat as it was new, but now it's like not really that much of a threat anymore. It's like uh, pretty much a musket versus a tank suddenly. Like there is a step in in evolution of that, a step in technique that is like so big suddenly that the old ways are way outdone already. Um, yeah, still think.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, it's once again this show split. This episode was split into two different kind of things, and it's only 26 minutes, but yet it's both of the scenes are done like well. Like there's a follow through the whole like scene because you do have that, you know, we let's practice your defensive magic because everyone knew that she this is how she was going to handle it, and to make sure that Fern
Yep.
was able to block the magic spells because she knew kind of what was going to happen. So, and like I said,
Yeah,
it's and once
exactly.
again, it's just good storytelling and follow through. So, um,
So
all right, episode 4 this time. the land where souls rest. In exchange for cleaning a beach, Frieren receives a grimoire written by the famous Flim. Even though it's fake, the work is finished by New Year's when the locals traditionally watch the sunrise. Frieren, a notorious late sleeper, misses the sunrise during her last visit, upsetting the heroes party. Um, this time she makes it, but finds the sunrise dull until she sees Fern enjoying and realizing why missing the last one upset everybody. Because they were all supposed to go together, uh, they then visit Stein's home. Not having seen him in 30 years, he asks for help searching Val Bison for Flem's genius, genuine grimoire, as Flem supposedly found a way to speak to the dead, and he thinks it will be beneficial for Frieren to speak with Himmel one more time. Frieren recalls Flem was her human master for 1,000 years who instructed her how to find her home if she ever felt regret and wanted to speak to the dead. Frieren recovers Flem's uh, grimoire, which describes where all the souls go. Uh, Aurora? Aurora? I think that's how you pronounce it. At the northernmost point of the continent where the Demon Lord's castle is located. On the way home, Stein is happy. Frieren is learning to care about people and is a good teacher to Fern. Frieren asks Stein to accompany them, but Stein declines, saying that he would slow her down in his old age. However, Stein also reminds them that the original uh, the original adventure to the Demon King Castle took 10 years, which Fern acknowledges, and that was kind of her. She was looking for something to do, and she was revisiting the hero's party's path. So this is just the MacGuffin to continue or give Fern a reason to go somewhere.
And now we switch up every time he said Stein with Eisen, and then everything's fine. Um, yeah, exactly. This time, Frieren wanted to do something for Eisen, just as he did for Haita, before Haita was done. And a lot more things happened, but these will be only shown later on in the next few episodes. Yeah. Exactly. They find the old master's grimoire, which is interesting because, as it turns out, Flamme is actually a mature person, has a high emotional intelligence, as the people say, and already knew that there will come a time when Frieren failed to get to know someone and regrets it. Which is something easy to predict when you know how emotions work in the people. And as we should know by now that Frieren does not know how emotions work. She never really sit down with just her emotions. She sits down with grimoires to learn spells, not with her emotions. Yeah, was mostly that.
Yeah, it was.
We
Most of
do
the
get
investigation.
we do get more detail in this episode in the first little story about how Frieren's disregard of time can actually be hurtful to her companions. Like we see how again, like Fern is less and less patient with Frieren for continually sleeping in. And so she just like grabs her by the hand and dresses her and brushes her hair and like basically treats her like a child just to get her moving. And they seem to kind of basically settle into that routine for the rest of the series so far, where like this Fern's like, well, if this is what's gonna take to get my stupid master moving, that's what we're gonna do. And Frieren lets her do it. Like she lets Fern kind of baby her a little bit, not in a weird way, but just like we got it is a little weird actually. Take that back.
It's like Fern's like the
But
mother
it's
figure,
also,
right?
it's just because they're so different. And like, yeah, and like you said, like they're when you have a roommate even or someone you're living with, like family, you're gonna have conflicts because you're gonna have different personality traits and different things that are important to you. So to Fern, it's important that they get moving at a reasonable time and they start their day, and it's just not important to Frieren. So the way they've worked out to deal with this is that Fern will just drag Frieren around, and Frieren accepts it, and Fern accepts it, and it's a little odd to outsiders. We can see the villagers kind of staring at them as they go by, but like it's how they choose to resolve that conflict.
Hmm.
But it is a little sad to know that like she did miss that sunrise, and we see it's a little funny. We see Hyder crying and tears streaming down his cheeks because Frieren did not come to the sunrise, and you wonder if maybe he was overplaying that a little bit, but no, I think he really was that sad. Like this was like an important moment he wanted to share with his friend, and she wasn't there, so it hurt his feelings. and and then finally years later, Frieren understands why that hurt his feelings. So that's a good character moment for her. And and yeah, and then her choosing to kind of accommodate Ison when he wants to go find this tree. It's like she also wants to find it, but it's like it's almost she's kind of like, fine, I will do this for you. It's also for her, but um she goes on a little adventure with Ison, and and yeah, Flamma, she that bit about her being emotionally intelligent, yes, she understood that Frieren's kind of frozen nature would eventually thaw, and that she would want to learn more about the people around her. And so she gave her a path to do that. And we see in a flashback when Flama and Freeman first planted this little sapling, and then we see it as a huge majestic oak tree, like 1,000 or whatever kind of tree it is, like 1,000 years later, where it's grown to this kind of like almost like this world tree, kind of like magically overgrown. Like trees don't usually get that big, so it's a good episode.
Yeah, I like when Frieren opens up the protective barrier around the tree to open up the cabin, and she goes, "1,000 years later, I'm still dancing in the palm of my master's hands." Like, because Flim knew, or she knew Frieren better than anybody, and she took into account like Frieren's emotional, like what she needed, and Frieren didn't know she needed it, but her master did long before Frieren even had the preconception thought of what she needed to do or where she needed to go. So it's an interesting line of dialogue that Frieren speaks out loud when she's picking up the Greymore and taking a look, and it's right to the page where she needed it. So like Frieren knew, like her master was knew that 1,000 years ago knew that Frieren would need her help, and I think and it just kind of to show you kind of Frieren's uh like couldn't under like don't understand things, but at the same time, people understand her more than what she can ever understand anybody else. So, like I said, I do like that piece of dialogue in that episode.
Yeah, yeah. Well, interesting here. Firen's name um, is freezing, like as in you're in the freezing cold, right? You freeze. Um, Not as in uh, actually water becoming solid freezing, as in you feel cold freezing. Um, because if it would be water becomes solid freezing, it would be Frieren, and not just Frieren. And Flamme, of course, flame. Uh,
Oh,
Same in
interesting.
English.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Flamme is more passionate, is more doesn't know these things. Frieren is, even though she does not know it yet, she is really socially cold. Which sometimes you can get so cold that it burns you. And that's what she will feel way more as she figures out her feelings way more. I think this is where this is my prediction actually of the journey, where it will go. I don't know if it actually goes that way yet. I think as it will go on, she will learn how to get past the death of someone she actually loved. And learn what loving even is.
Interesting.
No, it's that guy.
I think this is where it will go.
Well, and Flamma has that gorgeous red hair too, and Frieren has the white hair,
Yeah.
so they got the color coding. They got the color
that makes
coding.
sense. I didn't know that Frieren was cold in German or freezing. That's interesting. That makes sense. All right.
I think we will see her coldness or her socially coldness will burn her later on, as already did in episode 1 when she was crying because she didn't get to know him further than she did. That is one of the burning effects of the freezing coldness she has put herself in. Yeah, let's continue.
Yeah. Okay. Episode 5, The Phantom Dead. Frieren acknowledges 10 years is potentially a tenth of Frieren's life, and Fern decides to follow her. A short way into the journey, they enter a village where several people have disappeared after seeing ghosts of their deceased relatives. Fern suspects Einzim, a monster that lures victims with illusion magic. The illusion magic easily destroyed with magic attack, but as involves attacking the ghosts of the people that you loved, even experienced warriors cannot fight back and becomes its prey. Fern is caught by Heather's ghost, and Fern obviously is caught by Himmel's ghost. Um, exposing. Oh yeah. Frieren is talking to Himmel's ghost, and Himmel's ghost looks straight at her and says, "Shoot me." And she says, "Yeah, that's what Himmel would say." Which easily destroys the illusion magic around Fern, so she can attack the monster. Continuing on their journey, Frieren decides to kill a dragon to collect a Greymore in its nest. This requires a strong warrior, so they seek out Stark, one of Eisen's students who defeated the dragon
Yep.
in staring contest and now lives nearby. Stark admits that he's never killed a monster before and only won the famous staring contest because he was frozen in fear, which is absolutely a hilarious comedy like beat in the episode. I love it. Frieren gives him until morning to decide to help. Fern hears a commotion out in the woods, and Frieren says it's probably Stark training. Maybe you should go check on him. And thanks, Stark shows Stark cutting through the uh, mountainside, which I thought, yeah, in this episode, Fern goes out and talks to him, right? And they have and she talks about, because Frieren and Fern sitting down to dinner talking about Stark, and Frieren starts to bring up the first time Fern faced a monster, and Fern gave her the minutes her upset look, and she drops the subject, which is which once again is very funny. Um, but then I think Fern goes out and speaks to Stark and talks to him about, it's like I remember my first experience and I failed, but then I just had to get the resolve to turn and use my training, and she believes that Stark wouldn't fail the city. All he needs to do is find his resolve. But it kind of ends at night before the next day before the dragon battle.
Yeah, we get the flashback to when Eisen and Frieren traveled together, where Eisen is talking about Stark, and how he is, and that he's strong. um, which Stark means strong. Yeah. Yes, I think that's pretty much what concludes this episode.
We do see a little bit of Fern being naive in this episode because when they're gonna go face that monster in the mountains that brings back people's memories, and Frieren is like, "Are you sure you can handle it?" And Fern goes, "Yeah, of course. I'll just shoot it. I know it's a monster." And then when Heiter actually shows up in the illusion, she's frozen. She is not as quick to shoot as she thought she would be. So I thought that was nice that we get to see that. Even though she has fought monsters before, like this, she still has enough like kind of innocence and inexperience in her to still be caught up in a monster's illusions. And I also thought it was interesting that it was Heiter. I kind of thought it might be her parents who died, that she was like willing to kill herself over, but no, it was Heiter, which absolutely makes
Yeah,
sense. Like he raised her.
yeah,
That was her father. So losing him is still fresh and traumatic. And I think maybe she thought the
yeah.
same thing, that she thought it would be her biological parents, and then it turned out to be her adopted father. And she thought it would be easy to shoot through her bio parents, but then it was hard because it was Heiter. I'm not sure exactly if that was what happened in her head, but I kind of got that feeling. And
So
then, of course, Frieren is so experienced that she has no issues. And Himmel just says, "Shoot me," which is, I love that moment. That's a great moment. Yeah.
So I got a question though.
the creature.
Yeah, go
Wait a
ahead.
second. The creature is called Einsam, which means lonely.
Hmm.
And it's playing with illusions of people that are lonely due to loss. So
Yeah.
that's the naming meaning here. And right now, before we enter the credits talk, Frieren also sees Himmel, which means that's someone like most important for her now.
Right. And that's not her most recent loss because she's lost Heiter since then. But Himmel is
Yes.
the one that comes back. That is an interesting character moment.
Well,
And before, when she met this creature, it was Flamme, I think, if she
Yes.
met it
Yes.
before.
Flamma. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was because Flamme was dead at this point.
Hmm.
The only one she lost, I guess.
yeah. Well, I find it interesting the visuals here for the monster battle because, like, when Frieren unleashes her magic, it's like there's anger with seeing Himmel, like a monster, like taking his form. Like she's like disgusted and angry because she definitely OP'd that fucking magic beam.
I agree. It definitely felt way more like she said. She told Fern, but and in the lead up, like you just need to shoot with a little bit of mana and it'll disperse. Like this monster's no big deal. It's not that hard to deal with. But then when she was actually faced with it, she was like, kind of like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, like in that, and I love, and this is what I'm talking about that people don't maybe notice enough during watching the visual storytelling. That to me told me a lot about how Frieren or where Himmel, like what she realized when she broke down at that funeral when they finally put him in the grave and she knew like officially that he was gone and he was never coming back, and that like as you said, she melted, like some of that coldness melted away, and like to see a monster bastardizing his image, like totally she lost her cool. Something Frieren hardly ever does. Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
definitely an interesting fight for character. I love when you can get character development through a battle. That's one of my favorite things in anime.
like I said, this and Stark. We learn a lot about Stark and the kind of person he is, and the way he helps out during, like, the way the villagers talk about him. So there's already character building for that character who's, and you're getting it from the townspeople that's lived with him for 3 years. So Frieren already kind of knew how strong he was from Eisen, but she knows his personality through his experiences with the town people. And so it's an interesting way to give us, you know, Stark's personality, not through Stark, through other people's experiences with him. And like I said, the comedy beats for this scene, after having probably the first half of the episode being very kind of like heavy, it's very nice to get a very lighthearted end to the episode.
There, there's a theme about Stark, which talks about the concept of what is brave or what is being brave, um, which gets in the next episode as well, or even more so, explored. But I will talk about it here and then not in the next episode. Um, being brave is, I mean, something along those lines. Being brave is not the fearless who stands up, but the man who fears something, and despite that fear, stands up against
Yes.
something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is someone who can go beyond their fear.
Yeah. We
And that's
see.
why Stark needs to be a coward.
Yeah. I love Stark. I love his intro in this, and as we get to know him more, he's a great character, and I do really appreciate that it's a recurring theme with him is that you see his hand shaking, but he's still standing there. He's still fighting, and I know that happens in real life too. There are a lot of stories about men in battle who their hands shake, but they still, when they raise the weapon, it's steady. It's like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
So episode 6, the hero of the village. Stark admits that even though he's strong enough to take on the dragon, he's too afraid to. Um, Fern encourages Stark by telling him that all he needs is resolve. The next day, Stark recludes and agrees to distract the dragon despite being scared. However, Frieren points out that Eisen was always scared as well before a major battle, and we get a nice little flashback of that. Stark then engages the dragon and manages to kill it without needing any assistance from Frieren and Fern. Frieren collects the uh, treasures, like she has a giant stash of uh, junk, and Fern tells her she can only take 3 items, which was funny. And then Stark agrees to accompany her on her journey. The trio heads north to the city of Well, where but finds the checkpoint is closed due to an increase of monster activity in the Northlands. Frieren is content to stay in the city to continue her magical research, but or Fern hears conversations talking about that the checkpoint might be closed for 2 years. And then she goes to visit Stark as he's getting a nice ice cream sundae, and has a conversation about being stuck for the next 2 years. Stark reveals to Fern that he wants to go on an adventure so that he can return to Eisen to regale him with his stories of his 10 years adventure. Unfortunately, um, the city's custodian recognizes Frieren and believes that she is headed north to um, pacify the monsters and the remaining hordes of the Demon Lord. Gladly opens a checkpoint for her, and Frieren and her party is given a hero send off, which embarrasses Frieren, but Fern and Stark are excited that this marks the official beginning of their adventure.
Beyond the journey's end, and here we are with a new.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, the dragon battle was really cool. It's really fun to watch. Um, Very
yeah,
acrobatic. Like Stark is like flying through the air. It's a little. I mean, I kind of expected, since Frieren leans into the realism more often, that he'd be like basically a fighter who stands on the ground, but we did see him cutting through a mountain with his axe. So yes, this is a fantasy series where a human with just a lot of training and strength can cut through a mountain and jump so high in the air that he can hit a dragon in the head. Like, it's fine. But
Yeah.
it's not.
yeah, it does set you up like, oh, okay, this is the kind of show I'm watching. Because I was a little surprised the first
It's
time I watched it.
not entirely just physical prowess. He seems to use some sort of magic or something.
I think he
They
does, yeah.
they pretty much did add combat magic in a sense. Uh, like a
Well,
paladin would use it probably in
I
D&D
think
or
you're
something
right.
like that.
Because I think later when he fights that demon, I think he uses like a lightning spell to end that
Yeah.
fight.
When he fights demon, is some special named attack.
Yeah, yeah. In the
Uses
dub he
magic.
says lightning strike, but
Yeah, in the German version, it's like Himmels something, which means like something sky. Um,
okay.
I don't know. Sure, what's the Japanese version of the name of
Yeah,
the attack?
I didn't watch the sub this time. I watched the English dub. But yeah, it's a really fun fight with the dragon, and it's there are some humor beats too. And he ends it, and he's like panting, and his eyes are wide, and he's terrified. He's like, "Okay, I distracted it. Now it's your turn." And Frieren's like, "It's dead. You killed it."
He
It's a
calls
fun
her an
moment.
old hag. What are you doing, you old hag? And she's like,
Like,
he'll pay for that.
yeah, yeah, and we get some character moments too about how Eisen and Stark parted in anger, or Stark thought it was anger, because they were sparring, and Eisen hit Stark in the head. That's actually where Stark got his scar, and Stark thinks it's because Eisen, hated his weakness or his cowardice or something. But Frieren learned from talking to Eisen that it was an accident. He Stark was so powerful that he actually scared Eisen in that moment, and out of fear, he struck back more powerfully than he meant to because he felt threatened. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, they didn't. I don't think Frieren mentions this to Stark because, again, she's bad at
No.
talking to people. But hopefully someday Stark will return to Eisen, because we do find out that Stark's reason for going on this journey, or one of them, is that he wants to have a lot of fun adventure stories, so he can come back and share them with his old master Eisen before Eisen goes. So he's like, yeah, I've got to hurry up. I don't have time to wait around because I want to go back and tell him stories. So hopefully when he's able to do that in 10 years, whatever, hopefully then they can talk about what happened and work that out.
Yeah, and there's a
Yeah.
nice character moment. I'm sorry, go ahead, Wolf.
No. Go on.
Okay. There's a nice character moment where Fern and Stark is trying to figure out a way to escape the town. And when he reveals why he's going on his adventure to Fern, Fern's like, oh, that's exactly why I became a mage, is to repay my debt to my surrogate father for saving my life. And it's a very nice way to emotionally connect the two without being direct with it. It's just you see Fern's reason for becoming a mage, then Stark plainly states the reason why I want to go on this journey is because I want to have stories to go back and tell my master, because he really enjoyed telling the stories of his very insane and wacky adventure with these three other crazy people who wanted to go and find crazy spells and help all these people while they were wasting time. It's very interesting the way they connect Frieren and Stark, with having the fundamental um, belief into they want to do something for the people that's helped them from childhood to repay the debt that they occurred from having to be raised by these historic figures in the world.
Yeah. Also, it brings up in another thing, another very human thing, legacy. These are both pretty much the direct apprentices, or more or less the child. Fern is the adopted child of Heiter, and uh, Stark is the apprentice of Eisen, since he couldn't be the apprentice of Himmel, as Himmel was not doing anything like that. And they are not traveling again with Frieren,
Yep.
while they're themselves being like the legacy of the old party.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we don't know if Himmel didn't have an apprentice. We haven't found one yet. And it's not like we've known exactly what Himmel was doing in the capital uh, over
50
those
years.
50 years. Yeah, so there might
Yeah.
be some more. But that's an interesting point. I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah, I just came. I just thought of that as we were talking about them too.
Yeah, Frieren literally is like with the second generation of her
Yeah,
old party members. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
yeah.
All right, next episode.
Okay, like a fairy tale. Freerunner parties continues to travel north, and Freerun explains that the race elf has been declining since, due to their long lives, they are too empathetic to even reproduce. They pass by another village with a statue of her and her original party who celebrate Liberation Day. Frieren recalls a memory where Himmel was adamant the party leave behind statues of themselves as a reminder to Frieren that they actually existed and they weren't a simple fairy tale. Heading to another city, Frieren spots a demon and tries to attack them, only to be arrested by the city guard for threatening a peace envoy. Fern and Stark visit Frieren in the dungeon, reveals that one of the Demon Lord's lieutenant, Aurora the Guillotine, Guillotine,
Guillotine.
has
Yeah.
recently
Are
Oh, go ahead. Oh, recently
Nope, I was just repeating her name. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I got a fat tongue, so mispronunciation is part of my game. Um, he has recently, or she has recently regained uh, power and has been waging war against the city for the last 28 years, leading to both sides to open up to peace talks. However, Freeman warns from experience that demons are incredibly incapable of reasonings with, since they learn human language as a way to deceive humans, and we get a really interesting and kind of heartbreaking flashback um, of this happening before in her experiences and why she says this. Just as Frieren predicted, the demons' peace envoy, led by Jugner, are simply there
Lügner. Hmm.
to trick the city to lower their barriers so uh, Aura can raid it with her army. However, one of the attendants, okay, what's Dar? What is it? Darhat?
Rot.
Drat?
Us.
Has
Rot. Yeah.
I can't
Which
wait to
literally means wire. I'm now on Google Translate looking up all these
Yes.
things.
Yes.
There we go.
Rat is wire, and that's his whole power system.
Nice.
Yeah.
Heads to the dungeon to assassinate Frieren, but she warns him that she is fairly powerful. Yeah, like again, once again, this 24 minute episode is so filled with so much like emotion and stories. There is one part I did not like is like um when they when the peace envoy was in the son's room, and then they end up leaving, and the one of the assistants to uh what's his name, Launt liar, uh was like, she asked him, what is father? And there's like you could see the guard in the frame. Like they want to have this conversation with like a city guard, like right in front of them. So that was kind of a miscue on the episode, but um, yeah, that's one thing I would
Yeah.
like to point out.
Yeah.
It was
Uh,
more I think that moment was really meant to show us the audience that demons have not changed since Frieren's time. They still don't know what a mother is or a father is, but you're right. Like the guard was right there. That was a little weird. Could have waited till they got back to their room.
Yeah, because they do have an open conversation about taking down the city barrier. That's when they would have had that conversation.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
don't know if
Yeah,
anybody. Oh, go ahead.
I really like this whole demon arc from a storytelling perspective. This is as I've mentioned many times before, I love it when I'm watching anime and I get to the end of an episode and I really gotta watch the next one instantly. Like that's how this like 4 episodes, 7 to 10 feel. It's like it's all one kind of contained little story about the demons in the city who have been infiltrating and using their words to deceive as like magic spells. Like they don't know what a mother is, they don't know what a father is, but they know that if they say those words, it makes the humans not kill them. So they're like magic spells that work against humans. And you can really see that calculation in their eyes. Like when Lugner is in the son's room and the the leader of the city is about to kill him, you see his eyes flashing around, looking at all like the photos and stuff, and then he comes up with a magic spell where he says, "I see you kept this room tidy since your son died. I did the same for my father's." Like he uses this empathy um as a magic spell to stop being killed. And it made me think about how when I play RPGs with my friends and we'll like if you roll a really high diplomacy check, we'll say, "Oh, you cast diplomancy." Because you use your diplomacy in a way that's practically magic and using your words to get what you want.
Yeah. So, um, once again, you get introduced to characters with names that explain them. Besides Linie. Linie is line in English. I don't know how she got that name. Um, but that, of course, via his powers
It's
or
the
his
only thing he
spells.
does. That's the only thing he
Yeah,
does in the story.
yeah, that's all his contribution. And Lugner, of course, is the one who can lie like nothing else. He's perfected the art of being a noble liar. Um, like even amongst demons, he's
Hmm.
quite good at it.
Yeah, I like the flashback with Himmel and Frieren.
Yeah.
Like Himmel was going to slay a child demon, and then the chief of the town said, "Wait, it's like us. Let me patch up his wounds. It's just a child. We must protect it." So and Frieren was not. She's like, "Step aside. Let me do the dirty work because demons are evil." And Himmel's like, "No, we're gonna stick around and see what happens." And then the demon knows the mother of the child that he ate still wanted him dead. So in order to cast off her stares, he ended up killing the man that took him in and tried to replace the daughter that he ate with the chief's daughter. And that's when Himmel is confronting the demon, and the demon's like, "Well, I guess I'm gonna have to take this girl hostage." And Himmel just slices off his hand and was like, "Nah." that ain't happening. And Frieren goes, is it okay? And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's enough. The evil's evil, and that's what I like about this world. Like, there's no gray. Like, if you compare it to like Demon Slayer, like there's always a tragic backstory for the demon. This, there's no tragic backstory. Evil's evil and good's good. Flat. It's black and
Yeah.
white. It's simple.
Yeah, I really appreciate the simplicity of that. Like that's what I like in fiction is that there's very clear cut because life isn't like that, right? Like some people on the right have taken this little storyline as an allegory a little too far.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
being like, this is what the left do. And sure, some people on the left use words as magic spells. I'd say especially politicians and influencers, but not everyone. So it's nice that it's simple. Like this is a fictional story and demons are demons and they're evil and killing them is the right thing to do always. You don't have to think about it. And if they trick you, well, you shouldn't have gotten tricked and maybe you'll do better next time. Like it's anyone can get tricked, but it's like the fool me once kind of thing. You can get fooled once, but next time a demon tries to use their magic words, you gotta see through it because it's still a demon. So yeah, it's a really good arc.
I mean, yeah. This is also the first time passage of time is not really the big thing anymore. Now it's demons.
Right. The story here is just got to kill some demons. It's it's
Yep.
a lot less introspective than a lot of the other storytelling.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is where it goes full shojin. It's definitely, this is action.
Yeah, and the fights are great. We're kind of talking about all four episodes at once right now, but that's fine. It's a great little kind of self-contained story.
So moving on to moving on, we'll move on to episode 8 just real quick. Frieren the Slayer. Drought ignores Frieren's warning and attacks her. She can easily kill him and escape the dungeon. She notices the dead body and said, "Well, that'll be a problem for me later." And she sneaks off. The city, the warden of the city, starts to become suspicious because Drat's disappearance and Frieren's escape from the jail cell, and confronts Luger. With his plot exposed, Luger captures Granite with the intention of forcing him to disable the city's barrier. Meanwhile, Fern and Stark agree to warn about Luger when they come across Frieren. Frieren refuses to help them against Luger, and uh, com- is confident that the two are strong enough to defeat him. Instead, Frieren leaves to confront Aura, who is waiting outside the city with her army. That night, Frieren and Stark sneak in to the castle. As they work together, they seriously wound Luger, and with Grant badly injured, the two adventurers decide to rescue him and withdraw. As he heals his wounds, Luger realizes that Frieren is in the city. He recalls how Frieren also had the nickname Frieren the Slayer due to killing more demons than anybody else in history. Outside the city, Frieren confronts Aura face to face.
um, we get to see Lugner's ability, which is blood magic more or less, with his own blood, which is always an interesting thing, especially how he used it. Um, we get
I
some. Hmm?
I did really appreciate that the deception with the demons like ended almost instantly. Like we didn't have to spend episodes and episodes where the demons were lying and Frieren and her people knew the truth, but the city leaders were confused. Like no, like this is it ended like at the next episode, so we didn't have to like wait around for something to break. So I appreciated the this pace of the storytelling in this.
Well, and
Yeah.
that also says that the city commander, like, he's not a retard. Like he
Absolutely
was,
no.
he's competent. He's a leader. He's a competent person in a story. Like he
Yeah.
realizes, well, one of the demons has disappeared. The woman that tried to kill you at the beginning has disappeared. Something happened, and one of my men's dead. Somebody's going to have to pay for this.
Yep.
Also, uh, this was accelerated by the fact that they got one of the demons that was like way too much uh,
Yeah,
wanting to end it early
yeah, he was
with
reckless. He
Frieren.
was reckless.
Yeah,
So he broke the deception, which I mean, felt bad for the guard, but probably better for the city to end it right away.
exactly.
Yeah, I like having competent people, and yeah, I just like I said, the story flows and it makes sense. Like the guy's not dumb. So, okay, we'll move on to episode 9, or the Gauntlet, or yeah,
Guillotine.
Guillotine. Uh, Frieren and Stark.
Guillotine.
French word.
What's that?
French word.
French word, yeah, guillotine. Yeah,
Yeah, we get that French word in the middle of all this German.
yeah, I know. Well, I know we're coming up, so I want to at least try to get through this arc
Yeah,
at the very least before you have to go.
yeah.
Frieren and Stark manages to get Gaunt to safety in the town church, where he warns that Aura's trump card is a magic artifact called the Scales of Obedience, which measures the amount of mana she and her opponent possesses. The one with a greater amount of mana can dominate the loser, which is how she created her army of puppets. Frieren destroys some of the puppets, and seeing that she still has no understanding of humanity, concludes that she can kill her like a monster. Back in the city, Luger and his assistant, Liney, Lenny,
Linear,
ambush
Linia.
Lena,
Linear.
Lena, yeah, German. Banishes Fern and Stark while the demons initially have the upper hand. Stark learns that Lena copy Eisen's fighting style from observing him in battle, but lacks the strength to execute the moves to kill with force, and uses that to his advantage to purposely take a blow from her axe, and he can land the killing blow on her. Fern seizes the initiative by taking uh, advantage of her full strength of being able to cast spells more quickly than Frieren to eventually overwhelm Luger's defenses and kill him. So there's an interesting exchange between Luger and Fern. Like Luger ended up sneaking up on Fern and giving her like a not fatal wound, because he was embarrassed that she was able to sneak up on him and land a decisive wound on him. So he's so's hubris, and it comes back to bite him in the balls.
Yeah, I really like this episode because we can see that how powerful Stark and Fern are without Frieren. Because up until then, they always had this kind of safety net of like yeah, they fought their own battles, but also Frieren was always there, and we know that she's incredibly powerful, legendary mage who can do practically anything she wants to do. So we always knew that if Fern and Stark got into trouble, Frieren would be there to take care of it. But in this case, she's like, "You've got this," and she heads out. And so we do get to have some dramatic tension where Stark and Fern are both facing off their individual opponents, and it seems like for a moment they might be overwhelmed. I think more with Stark than with Fern, because Fern has a lot of Frieren's kind of very calm and cool attitude, where you just kind of believe that she's going
Yeah.
to be able to handle herself. Where Stark is a lot more emotional and a lot more willing to show his fear and his trepidation. So it definitely seemed like Stark was closer to going down. He also took a lot more wounds than Fern did, for sure. He got beat up pretty
Mhm.
bad. So Linnea was definitely a strong opponent, but it was very, very satisfying to see them both defeat their enemies by themselves without Frieren, it just shows, how strong they both are and how they can handle themselves. And yeah, they were very fun battles, very well animated. Their skills were definitely put on very cool display. And we got at the beginning of the episode, we learned about Ara and her scales, so we know how they work.
Yeah. Also, we got the best philosophy that Eisen has ever brought upon the world, which is if you stand back up, you haven't lost yet.
That's yes, good advice.
Yep. And
Which is better advice for doing things in real life than it is for actually fighting if you want to survive.
Yeah,
true.
no, true.
How do you beat a more powerful opponent? Just get back up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you've got well, but I think Eisen also knew that Stark could do that. Like, but yeah, that's not the perfect advice for everyone by any means. But for Stark, I think it was the correct advice.
Get knocked out. But I get back up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was stuck in this episode.
Yeah, I wanted to say this too in episode 8 where Freeman's leaving the city and she's like, "No, you guys can handle it." And Stark's like, "Well, no, we need you. What if bad things happen?" And he starts crying, and that's when they cut to that cute animation, change the art style, and he's crying and bawling, and then Fern just grabs him by the collar and starts dragging him
And
backwards.
direct them off. Yeah. Yeah.
Just it just shows that Fern is definitely like the do
She's
I
like a
want to?
big sister in some
Yeah,
ways. She's
she has
got some
big
big
sister
sister energy.
energy. Yeah, she
Yeah.
does. But yeah, I wanted to say that because I really enjoyed that little because it's like it's very every time you get very heavy, you get a little bit of comedy, a little bit of break so you can catch your breath, and they do
Yeah.
it very well.
Yeah. Those moments are definitely important for storytelling.
Yep. Episode 10: A Powerful Mage. Mortally wounded, Luger is left to wonder how Fern is so powerful until he comes to realize that she has been suppressing her mana to look weaker than she actually is, which is considered a taboo among demon mages. Fern then finishes off Luger. In a flashback to 1,000 years ago, Flem comes across a destroyed elf village and finds Frieren, the only survivor, having managed to kill the demon general attacking her. Flem decides to take Frieren as an apprentice and teach her how to indefinitely suppress her mana. She also teaches Frieren how to fight demons. Since demons are proud and confident in their own magic and are incapable of suppressing their own mana, Flem explains that suppressing their mana they can trick demons into feeling a false sense of security where they can be destroyed in a surprise attack. Flynn's last instructions to Frieren is to keep training and suppressing her mana and live in obscurity until she is powerful enough to defeat the Demon King. 1,000 years later, Himmel and his party track down Frieren in an attempt to recruit her. Seeing that Himmel can instinctively sense her true power, Frieren decides to join them. In the present, Aura uses the scales of obedience, but is horrified when Frieren shows her true extent of her mana. Aura is dominated by Frieren, and she is forced to behead herself under Frieren's orders. So, two
Yeah.
really good flashbacks happen in this episode, and it's all dealing with Frieren.
Yeah, this is such a cool episode. It's probably my favorite. I don't know if in the whole I forget what happens in the last half of the season, but definitely up until the point I've rewatched, up till episode 14, this is my favorite episode. It's so cool. We get Freeren's backstory. It's never stated explicitly that her family was in that village, but I'm at least to be implied that she lost her family there. And she couldn't save anyone, but she was able to defeat the demon general. And then Flama took her in. Um, and we see her spending, centuries suppressing her mana, and then that moment when she lets it go, against Ara is so incredibly satisfying. Both the first time and the second time I watched it, I was just like kind of pumping my fist. It's like, yes, yes, it's so cool. Um, and then forcing the demon to behead herself, it's like so casual. It's like kill yourself, and then she has no choice but to do it. Yeah, it's such a cool episode. I really love it, and we get so much character stuff going on there.
Yeah. To me, I do enjoy everything. The introduction of her and Himmel and how Himmel like kind of because you kind of see where Fern and like a while back in episode 2 or 3, Frieren mentions to Fern that they're alike because Frieren really never cared for magic. It's just something that she could do, and like she was very passive when it came to magic, and then you kind of understand why you know she took Fern on is because they shared kind of like the same choice. Like they were in a position where that's one skill that they had. That's what they chose to do.
Yeah, and we learn about a lot about Flamma too, because it sounds like she also lost her family to demons. Um, and that's why she chose to devote her life to magic and to the technique of suppressing mana in order to trick demons. And so when she finds Frieren, this elf who lost her village, and sees her potential for mana, she's like, I'm gonna teach her how to do it too, so we can both have our revenge on demons. And it's like it's about revenge. It's about studying magic because they both state that they love magic. But it's also about like this connection that Flamma has with Frieren, where she sees herself in this elf, and she's like, I can teach her. We can travel together. We have similar goals, and yeah, that's a lot of good character stuff.
And then we learned more stuff. Why Flames became a great mage because of her master, which is quite ironic. Do they
Yeah,
have?
and then Frieren also taught that mana suppression to Fern.
Yep.
So Fern already, when Frieren met her, she was already very good at like being quiet, kind of, and hiding herself. And so again, Frieren saw, here's someone like me who I can teach, and it worked really well. And yes, and we do learn a lot about demons in this episode too, and about how they can't suppress their mana as a matter of course because they have to show it to each other because that's how their hierarchy works. The person with the most mana among the demons is the strongest and is therefore the leader, so they can't afford to suppress it. They can suppress it for a little
Mm.
bit for stealth, which is what Lugner does when he catches Fern off guard and deals her a blow, but they don't do it the way Frieren does for, centuries, obviously.
Well, tactical
And
advantage. Yeah.
yeah, for tactical advantage, like they can't think that way, and that's why they lose is because they don't have the the strategy. So yeah, it is very satisfying also in that it is power. Frieren overwhelms Ara with power, but it's also because of her strategy, because of her master and her ability to think ahead and plan and for centuries to have this trick that she's going to play. And how Flamma says this is cowardly, this is like dishonorable thing to do, but I don't care. And Frieren doesn't care either. Like nothing matters in the face of destroying your enemy. It's a very pure kind of hate they both have for demons.
Also, uh, this important thing when when your enemy is not playing the rules you set,
Mm,
there might be a good reason for you to not play to the rules they set.
yes. Yeah. Very important.
It's
Like
like either all agree to one set of rules or people just do what they want.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Um, it also shows how prideful all the demons are. And there's also a bit of lore about Fern's way of magic, because she can cast spells faster than Frieren can.
Yes.
Yep.
She has really good control over her mana, over magic flow,
Yep.
even before that.
Put a pin on that because we're going to use that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, so anyway, that's the whole Demon City arc. It's really good. It's my favorite arc in the series so far because it is the most shonen and I love shonen, but that's just my opinion.
So let's put the finishing bosses on it with episode 11, The Winter in the
Mhm.
Northlands. After paying proper respects to Orr's victims and engaging Grant's hospitality, Frieren and her party continues their journey, but plans to drop by Abarst, Aburst, a large magical city in the Northlands, to get the first class mage certification that will enable them to travel through the northern plateau. However, on the way, they get lost in a blizzard at the foot of uh, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Mountain Stark begins to suffer hypothermia. Unfortunately, they find an emergency cabin and meet an elven monk named Kraft. Frieren and her party stays with Kraft inside the cabin for 6 months to ride out the winter. Kraft then confides into Frieren that he decided to worship the goddess because, with all his old friends dead and his accomplishments long forgotten, he can she can remember his deeds and praise him when he finally goes to heaven. He then asks about Frieren's past, offering to praise her in the place of the goddess. This triggers flashbacks of Heather and once said that the same words to Frieren, and she declined Kraft's offer, stating that somebody has already praised her. Kraft advises that Frieren cherish her friends and companions before parting ways with her and her party. So this is probably going to be the last episode we'll get to before.
Yep, and that's fine. Totally great episode to kind of end this discussion on. It's we get the wrap up of the city and we get to meet a new character who's pretty interesting in his own right. It's obviously a much slower, more slice of life episode, but we still get some character development. We still get some plot development with their travel plans, and we meet a cool new guy who they winter with for a few months to survive this snowstorm.
Mhm.
Croft, is that the better pronunciation?
Kraft is his name, and the translation would be something like strength.
Strength, yeah, makes sense. He's a monk with abs.
A lot of
Yeah.
abs. Like when they open the
There's
cabin, he's working out, and they're like, "There's a pervert inside. Let's find somewhere else to go."
which he was
that
doing to keep warm because there was no firewood, and yeah, but
yeah
he's a fun
the,
guy. I like his character a lot.
Well, there was
yeah there is a
firewood, just
thing.
not. He didn't have the ability to make the fire, right?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Like he didn't have flint and steel or something.
Yeah, yeah.
There is a thing here. Stark and Kraft can mean the same thing.
Oh.
Um, Stark is strong, and Kraft is strength. um, but Stark is mostly just seen as the physical. Kraft can also be metaphysical. Can also
Oh,
be
that's very interesting because that speaks to his, as in Western like RPG, like D&D fantasy, a monk is not only, you know, in D&D parlance, a monk is a fighter who uses their fists, but also there is that connotation that they're religious. And the reason D&D monks use their fists is because there was a tradition in Europe that a monk was not supposed to use a bladed weapon, so they were allowed to fight with a staff or a cudgel, but not with a sword or with arrows. So when the D&D monk was um, developed, it was following that, Western tradition where a monk is like fights with their fists instead. So so that's where that comes from. So it is really interesting that now in this anime, based on Western fantasy, it's using this D&D conception of a monk, where he's very physically powerful, but he's also religious, and he prays to the goddess and looks forward to going to heaven someday.
Yeah. Yeah. Kraft can also like mean your inner power pretty much.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense for him. And I'm very curious about this guy because he mentions about how he has these great deeds he did in the past and they've all been forgotten. So it sounds like, before Freeren's time perhaps, like back maybe with the Demon King War when a lot of elves were wiped out. Maybe he fought then. We don't know. And he doesn't say because he's not interested in self-aggrandization. Like he's looking forward to being praised by the goddess. He doesn't need praise from humans now or mortals now.
Yeah.
So so we don't know what he did, but there is the conception that he probably was an adventurer who fought with a party and did amazing things, and they've all been forgotten. And at the end of the episode, he tells Freeman we'll meet again in a century or two, um, which is so cool. Actually, I really like that we have this other elf character, and he's not upset about parting ways. Like I'll see you again. He's such a calm and interesting character.
Yeah, he's also not really up to date on anything.
Right.
He doesn't know that the Demon Lord is already dead.
Mhm. Yeah, he's just
And
out
what the
there.
Frieren is.
He's just doing his thing. He's out here like pumping iron and keeping his abs and whatever he's
Yeah.
doing, or like doing push-ups with rocks on his back, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Longer.
this episode, we did get a bit of fan service. Some Yuri, where in order to keep Stark alive and to warm him up, they both were naked under the same blanket. So we did get a
They
little bit
weren't
of that.
completely. They were still wearing clothes,
Yeah.
but Croft was shirtless.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was. I love that. That was so funny when Stark like opens his eyes and he's like, my head is on someone's arm." And then he glances over and he sees Croft's face, and then he starts to close his eyes again, and then he does a double take, like what?
Yeah.
So yeah, a nice moment of brevity.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
Uh,
nice because you see like them bonding over 6 months. So you're like, oh look, we picked up another companion, and then like
yeah,
the monk's like, no, you guys have fun. It was nice meeting you. I got things to
yeah.
do.
I'll see you later.
Awesome.
Like yeah, it was just a nice kind of little winter interlude.
The city they are or to get to is called Oisast, which
Oasis.
means like the the most outer layer, the most outer stuff.
Outer layer. Interesting. Okay.
No, not outer layer. It's like the most outer something.
Like outpost.
Or edge.
If it's always explain things.
It's okay.
Okay.
I know words can have connotations that are hard to translate.
Yeah. And because it has multiple meanings that you could take from. Extraordinary would be
Sure.
one, or the highest. Without even using high, like there is
Like
nothing in hive or something there in the word. It's from aus and erst, and aus in the sense of außen, which is outside.
outside.
That's why it's out of the ordinary. That.
It's like kind
But
of outer.
in this context, is like just physically the most outer thing.
Oh, like
There's
outermost.
yeah, it's like it's the most northern town, so it's like the
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
Kinda
get what
like,
you're saying.
the furthest point or something
yeah.
like that. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, people use it's also realistic that people use very literal names when naming places. Like, there's so many, like, you know, something whatever river town, like, there's so many river towns or river tons in the world, things like that, because it was a town near a river.
Mm.
No, and
Yeah.
yeah, so like even during their 6 months, like you see Freerun like not praying while they're eating, and then gradually she joins in and prays to the goddess while they're eating. So I mean, yeah, I mean this episode's not bad as far as just kind of like a pause because we had nothing but action. So
Yep, it's a kind of little breather.
as we get ready to start a new arc. So, and I like the way that these arcs kind of like run and conclude compared to like Windbreaker, where it felt like Windbreaker it was like there was no pause.
There's no stopping point in Windbreaker.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
900 miles an hour. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, yep, I think this is a good place to pause. I'm gonna take off, go see my niece.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody who joined us today. It was very much fun. I do really enjoy this. I'm glad that I suckered somebody into watching it. That was the purpose of it. So,
It's a good
and
show.
and then next week we will come back and try to finish the rest of the season one. And there's two seasons. I still can't believe they. I think they didn't think Freerun would have took off the way it did, and that's why they
Mm,
launched a 28 season trailer, or first season. And I'm glad that they did. I really enjoyed
yeah.
this.
I'm glad there is a second season to watch once we finish the first 28 episodes.
There's only 10
Alright.
episodes in the next season, so
I
not too
know, it's
bad.
so weird. It's like the most extreme difference you can have between 2 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. But once again,
Alright.
folks, I think we'll just cut it off for today, unless anybody got some stuff coming up
Yeah.
that they want to promote.
All good. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye bye, bye bye,
Yeah.
bye.
Bye bye.
We're done.
Alright, I'll see you later.